Welcome back, Alpha Hunters. The markets are rolling on. It is a very tubular Tuesday. Get a nice little bounce back Tuesday too. Nice bounce to today. We're up 1.5% on the SPY. We did have a little bit of a gap up today, not a crazy one, about a third of a percent gap up there. But yeah, you can see we've definitely pushed higher here in the first hour and a half of the day, getting above yesterday's high. It was looking pretty good. I was kind of surprised how weak we kind of sold off yesterday. I mean, we traded up pretty good for the first 3 hours yesterday, and then we basically just pulled back for like the rest of the afternoon. Little bit of a bounce there on the close, and so not surprised to see that we're trying to go higher. Kind of makes sense. We did have a large gap down yesterday to start the week on the back of how we ended last week with that weakness. And we will talk about one of the developments that we did have with a big tech company yesterday. So we'll kind of take a look at that. But taking a look at the Qs, nice little bounce today above yesterday's high, looking pretty good. Up 1.75. IWM looking pretty good here, up 1.2% on the day. You see they got negative real kind of briefly there in the first 15 minutes or so. Okay. DIA got negative briefly, but they're up 1.3%. RSP up a little bit over 1.5%, doing pretty well on the day. Looks like RSP actually had some pretty good action in the first 35 minutes or so on the day. Yeah, definitely had some pretty good action there on the RSP on the open. Looking really good. This is kind of a tough one. You know, yesterday, gapping to, I mean, here on the RSP at least, gapping like halfway between the 100, 200. And, some of these some of these ETFs, you could definitely say, hey, makes sense if we pop higher. You're looking for that move up into that 100 moving average. I mean, that we're there. I would say on the RSP, you got two kind of important levels, right? Obviously, it's going to be right here where this 100 is. It's also kind of where the Friday's lower end was. So that's kind of where we are. But you're also going to have this spot about right there. And we're about where is that? About 166.5 to 167. Because that's right where these highs were back through June. And then you also have this little low that we try to kind of bounce off of that general area back here in late July. So obviously we broke that down late last week. And so if we go up another day, up a little bit higher, that's where the 50 EMA would be. That's probably where the 10 EMA roughly would be, 20 EMA. And there's going to be a lot of people that trade off of so many different levels, the 10, the 20, the 50. You got pivot levels. So that's going to be kind of a tough spot. Yeah, if you're looking to probably get out, here's not a tough spot. Here's not a tough spot. Here's not a bad spot where we are currently. But could we go up a couple more points on the RSP? Yeah, we definitely could. Absolutely. And honestly, I kind of would think we would, because I think we'd have a couple. I think we'd have like at least maybe another 1 or 2 days before we potentially see more of a rollover. I honestly, and kind of where I'm at is I want to see a little bit more choppiness of top action, like multiple days, kind of like this that we had back here mid-May. Kind of we made a run and we kind of just chopped around a little bit and before we rolled over. So that's something I would want to see. I just want to see a couple days of chop before we kind of push lower. DIA, yeah, coming in that 100 daily moving average kind of makes a lot of sense. Everything's up about the same amount. So yeah, DIA obviously maybe up to like 398.5 or so, wherever this pivot level was. Makes sense. Okay, IWM hit the 200 moving average yesterday, hitting the 100 moving average today. Almost actually got to the 100 moving average yesterday. Looks pretty good. Probably goes a little bit higher here over the next couple days, at least to 210 maybe, where this high was. Maybe makes sense. Okay. Qs. Yeah, the really tough one with the Qs. obviously we're bouncing off the 200 moving average where we kind of gapped to yesterday, but we got the top back from Q1 that is now going to be no longer support. We were trying to bounce off that, Friday, 'cause that's kind of where we stopped there on Friday. Obviously, with the gap down yesterday, that is now going to be resistance. So you're going to have a pretty good resistance zone here. Basically 450 to about 456, because that's where the 100 moving average is. All these moving averages are going to be coming down. So I think you're going to get plenty of time here over the next few days as we probably trickle a little bit higher on a lot of these ETFs to maybe rotate out of positions, especially just, maybe not initially, but you can just kind of take your time and say, hey, you know what? I don't like how we're not getting through some of these levels. I'm gonna go ahead and swap off some positions. SPY hasn't gotten back to its 100 daily moving average, so that's kind of concerning. Because the RSP, yeah, the RSP was there. The Qs, yeah, the Qs are definitely not even close. So, we do have a little bit of an open gap here on the SPY from Thursday to Friday on the gap there. So maybe we go a little bit higher here on the SPY. Obviously, probably go a little bit higher, at least to get to that 100 moving average. Okay. As far as like some big developing news, because this is kind of a big time, like you need to be aware of this for investing purposes, is Alphabet was hit yesterday with, let's see if they have it here on the front. Basically antitrust case. There it is. Google's antitrust loss could put billions at risk for Apple. So we're gonna talk about Apple next, but yeah, they got there was a court case that came up several months back. Briefly talked about it on the channel. We don't, I don't like to get into all the lawyer minutia, but the FTC obviously brought up a pretty good case that Alphabet was doing some pretty antitrust things with search, and one of their main points for going after Alphabet was that they paid Apple to be the sole search provider for Apple's products, and yeah. Anyways, that's a big no-no, especially when you are already the dominant. But that was the thing. They were the dominant player in search. We all know that. Alphabet, Google search is the dominant one out there. It's been like that for shoot 2 decades maybe. So the fact that they kind of paid to be the sole provider for Apple's search on their mobile devices and stuff like that, it wasn't good. So yeah, it did come down yesterday that the judge did rule that they are monopolistic. Obviously, there will be appeals. This is not the end of it. There's going to be appeals and stuff like that, but it is concerning because typically if you don't win that first one on these kind of cases, you won't, like, usually the appeals don't stray too different from the initial ruling. So we'll see if Alphabet appeals. My guess is they probably will, because that is their I mean, that's their business, right? Google search is like their big business. So yeah. Anyways, interesting. Be curious to see if they had to divest, maybe get away from AAPL. So AAPL. Obviously, that's not great news for Apple, but I would imagine it's probably not the worst news. So Google pays Apple kind of like I think like 33 or 34% of search revenue. So I think it's like $20 billion a year or something. I don't remember off the top of my head. Anyways, obviously you're not going to get that kind of a deal. Like if you go with Bing or I don't know, another another search engine out there. Honestly, I think Bing's the other big competitor, but I mean, it's not like they're a huge competitor. So AAPL makes sense why they're getting hit a little bit today, because that's probably just, I mean, it's just looked at as less revenue going forward. And yeah, be curious to see kind of what kind of winds up coming to that. But yeah, Alphabet and Apple getting hit a little bit on that today, because I mean, we just we see Apple here down 1%, and out what was Alphabet at? Basically flat. They're on the old Google. They're basically flat when the market's up 1.5%. So yeah, that's, I mean, they're definitely lagging behind here today. VIX, yeah, VIX coming back. I mean, look how that thing has just exploded higher. 3 days, got all the way up to mid 60s, and has come back down to mid 20s. Amazing how quickly that happens, right? So, yeah, I think the thing I'm going to be watching is probably just see what happens here, how we kind of. I mean, except this is such a high level for the VIX that we can continue to pull down. Volatility continues to decline, and we could go lower on the markets. And that's probably the more concerning thing, is if that scenario starts to happen. Obviously, we'll see if that happens, but dollar trying to bounce back a little bit today. The concerning thing here is obviously you got a large lower wick yesterday, but you got a little bit of an upper wick today. So pretty good distance away from those moving averages. Probably not looking to be looking for any kind of position right now. Probably just waiting to see. Let's see, GLD, the Gold Trust. Yeah, pulling back a little bit today. Okay, nothing crazy. Yields climbing today, but they've had huge breakdowns all last week, even a huge gap down yesterday. But bouncing back. Okay. 10-2 inversion, still inverted, but uninverted for a brief period of time yesterday. HYG, high yield corporate bonds, risk on bonds, bouncing back a little bit today. Kind of sandwiched all the way in between that 50 and 100 moving averages there. Yeah, I want to see some things kind of calm down before we kind of look for, man, some trades. Jeez, I mean, things have just moved so much here over the past like week or two. It's like, dude, I want to see some calm down. I want to see some better setups. TLT coming back down. Okay. Just a huge push over the past few trading days on the TLT there. Obviously, yields, big drop off. So be curious to see what happens here over the next couple days, because, man, we just need to see some consolidation, some areas. All right, take a look at sector rotation on the day. Tech, a nice little gap up there. All right. XLK leading the day. Real estate also. So tech and real estate doing pretty good. In line with the market. Industrials, financials, communications, staples, kind of all right there in line with the market on the day. Discretionaries, healthcare, utilities, materials, energies, all underperforming on the day. Intraday performance here. Utilities, tech, healthcare, energies, discretionaries, all underperforming. Staples in line with the market. Materials, communications, industrials, financials outperforming, and real estate's the best performer on the day, which is really kind of interesting because yields are up, and we hadn't seen that kind of correlation happen. It's been a while, right? Typically, you see yields go up, real estate, goes down, yields are up, real estate's up today. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting one.